Welcome to another edition of the Gridiron Report. I'm Jarret Johnson. I'm joined by the mighty Joe Yeager. And this is a special edition of the Gridiron Report because it's the Texas Tech 2021 football season preview. Mighty Joe, man, first off, before we jump into that, why don't you tell the folks out there how you're doing?
Oh, well, I'm doing pretty good, Jarret. How about yourself?
Great, man. It's a beautiful sunny day, you know. It's game week finally after it seemed like just a really long offseason this year. Finally, there's some optimism around the football program, and I think that's where I want to go with my first question for you is what's your overall feeling right now about Texas Tech football and the direction of this program?
Yeah, I would say cautiously optimistic, but maybe even a little bit more than cautiously. I mean, I really believe that this team certainly has the personnel, has the talent, has the ability, has the players, however you want to put it, to win a lot of games. I think they can compete with everybody on the schedule except for realistically Oklahoma.
Right.
I think they're going to have a shot. And then at that point, once you've got the guys on the field to match up with everybody else, it's just a matter of actually getting it done, making the big plays when it counts late in the game, and then your coaches doing a good job in preparation and game management. And, you know, that's why Iowa State is so darn good, is because they have all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, their talent is pretty good. It's improved a lot. But they have all that other stuff really going well, and Matt Campbell up there and those staff up there does a great job. So if we can get something like that out of Wells and this staff, then this could be a pretty darn good year, I think.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I think that Coach Wells does try to emulate a lot of what Matt Campbell does, or at least that he believes in a lot of the same core values, and he wants to establish a kind of culture of physicality and, like you said, you know, discipline and accountability, all that stuff that we hear about. Like, it sounds cliche, but these coaches preach those things for a reason. You know what I mean? And the ones that actually get their players to do that and believe in it are the ones who have success, like Matt Campbell. And I think that's what they're trying to do here. But first, you gotta improve the roster too. You know, or while you're instilling that culture. And you know, we've been out to some practices. I've been out to a bunch of practices this season. And I feel like they've done that, especially through the transfer portal. But who are one or two guys, or maybe even more, that, you know, the new additions that you're really excited to see this year, Mighty Joe?
Boy, there's just so many good ones, really. It's exciting ones. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go Tyler Shuck because that's been talked about enough.
That's given, right?
Yes, that's a given.
Yep.
Okay, but what about the 6'9" tight end, the freshman Mason Tharp, who's going to be an absolute monster? It's just a question of when. And I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. Wells has already said that he's going to play a lot and he's going to play immediately.
That's right.
And for a freshman to come in and get that sort of affirmation from the head coach is impressive. And everything that we've seen of him is like, this guy's an animal. He's a beast.
I'm going to blow your mind. I think he's going to be no worse than third on the team in receptions this year. I think Easy will be number one, and one of the other receivers, possibly one of the inside receivers. And I think Tharp's going to be right there. Shuck likes to throw tight ends. He did it at Oregon. Mason Tharp is 6'9", 255 pounds, and runs away from linebackers, okay? And we saw Shuck look him up in the scrimmage, right? So I think Mason Tharp's going to be right up there with your team leaders in receptions.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to throw to him? I mean, look. He's like two guys out there. You know, I mean, come on, you put it.
Especially for back in the day with some
sure,
of the guys they
exactly.
put out there, yeah.
I mean, two Jakeem Grants. You know, and you know, I mean, seriously, you know, with a guy like that, the catch radius, the size, your accuracy doesn't have to be quite so pinpoint. Yeah. You know, so that's why you love those huge guys. He should be a big target, literally, and every other way as well. And third in receptions, I could see that. Yeah.
Now, on the other side of the ball, there's a lot of guys, especially in the secondary, that have come in. And to me, like, that was a big concern. The secondary, what are they going to do there? They need numbers, and they needed just better talent, to be honest. And they did that. And the first guy I look at is Marquise Waters. I just think he's a heck of a football player. I can't believe they got him. But then next to him at safety is Reggie Pearson Jr., who, oh, by the way, started 13 games for a Wisconsin team in 2019 that went to the Rose Bowl. So, I mean, as a redshirt freshman. So they have significantly upgraded the safety position, in my opinion. What should Tech fans expect from those two guys?
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that was a sore spot.
It really
was. I mean, look, Eric Monroe was pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, he came on a little bit last year after a slow start, transferred in from LSU, but improved. But still, who else did you have back there? You needed a couple of guys to come in there and really solidify that group, and you absolutely got about as good as you could realistically expect, maybe even more so. So yeah, that changes the whole dynamic of the secondary, and suddenly safety goes from a question mark to something that's like approximating an exclamation point. It's a total turnaround, and it's a much better looking group right now.
Absolutely. You throw in the two corners, both with nice size, 6'2", 6'3", and Rashad Williams from UCLA. I think he started 10 games out there. And then Malik Dunlap, 6'4", 215, who could run and is athletic. I mean, when was the last time you remember Tech having a couple of cornerbacks that big, or if ever, you know? And who else in the Big 12 even has that right now? I mean, those are two guys that have started multiple games, had success, and you pair that with a DeMarcus Fields, who, oh, by the way, led the Big 12 in pass breakups last year. I mean, you go from being like, I don't know how they're going to compete, this is going to be a major hole, to like you said, cautiously optimistic, you know? But then I think we'd be remiss before we moved on without mentioning another huge addition back on the other side of the ball in offense, and that's TJ Storman at left tackle. That was something that just had to happen. What made me think about that again was you saying, you know, better than you could have possibly hoped for. I mean, here's a guy who was second team All Big 12 for TCU last year. He played for the new offensive coordinator, Sonny Cumbie. Every time I've seen him in practice, he's been great. Not just kind of good, but he's your best offensive lineman. Him and Deaton, and then there's everybody else. What a big upgrade is TJ Storman at tackle.
You know, yeah, it's just like you got to tip your cap to the Wells and the staff, because it's like every position that they really needed somebody, they got somebody that was huge. Yeah. I mean, the safeties, look, the cornerbacks, and the quarterback, obviously Tyler Shuck and TJ Storman. You know, I mean, it's you couldn't have scripted it too much better in terms of getting the guys that you needed at the positions where you needed them the most. And so Storman just solidifies that line at the most important position probably this day and age, center and left tackle. And those are your two strongest positions on the offensive line. Yep. You know, so not too bad.
All right, we have, and I think rightfully so, you and I always try and call it like we see it. We talked about these great additions that, you know, we're going to have our predictions here in a minute, and that we feel optimistic going into the season. But what concerns do you have? Why don't you give us a concern, that I'll give them one of my concerns.
Yeah, well, it was something that I alluded to earlier. And, you know, listen, the coaching staff, particularly Matt Wells, game management, has just got to improve. I mean, maybe the coaches don't see it that way. I don't know for sure exactly how they look upon some of those extremely controversial calls last year that did not go Tech's way. And you know, some people would say these were decisive in losses. So, I think you've got to just start making the solid football calls on a more regular basis. Don't try to do anything too radical or crazy. Look, you've got the personnel who can win you the games. The coach doesn't necessarily have to win by making these super genius calls or anything that may backfire on you. So that's, to me, my biggest concern, and it's something we're going to watch from the very opening whistle and see what happens.
I think that's a really good point, and it has me thinking, like, you have to wonder, I don't know if this is the case, but you have to wonder if maybe sometimes the coaches felt like they had to kind of pull a rabbit out of their hat with the personnel they had, you know, just to be quite honest. And maybe with the upgraded roster, it'll be more of like the simple play, like let's kick field goals on fourth down and, you know, punt instead of, you know, doing all these fake punts, or, you know, not onside kick, or not get too cute with the pooch kicks and all. Just play football. Just play your cards on the table. You've done a good job improving the roster. Let's see how they do, you know, just straight up. We'll see. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be more of the same, but that's a legitimate question. My main concerns I still have concerns, especially about depth on the offensive line, because especially at tackle, if Storman or Caleb Rogers, who's really improved, by the way, if one of them go down, the talent level drops, or at least the skill level right now drops pretty significantly, pretty quickly. So those two guys need to stay healthy. Really, the offensive line overall, there's just not a lot of depth this year on the offensive line. There's some guys I think are going to be good in maybe 2 years, but they're not there yet, you know? And then I think in the secondary, yes, they've upgraded the cornerback position, but once again, not a lot of depth. So if they can stay healthy in those two key positions, it'll go a long way towards them achieving those goals. And speaking of some of those goals, Joe, let's put it, I know we've already put it out there in the rapid fire, but for those who haven't read this or seen this, what's your prediction for a season record?
8-4.
8-4 in the regular season. I'm at 7-5. I think let's go ahead. We're going to do a whole knockout game preview of Houston, but I assume if you have them winning 8, you think they're going to beat the Cougars to start.
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to be a very competitive game. I think it's going to be a little bit tight. Going to be some puckered orifices around Raiderland in the fourth quarter, but I think they're going to pull it out. I think they'll win.
I do too. All right, Mighty Joe, great stuff from you as always. Thank y'all for watching, and until next time.